Good day, all. This is TurboDave here at Performance Corner. Today we're going to be talking about code 52 on a Toyota T100. 1993 is this one. It's a 3VZ engine. This will go across the board for pretty much any 3VZ engine. Code 52 is actually a communication code, so it's not communicating with the ECU, so the ECU sets a code. On this particular one, we opened the hood, see what was going on. Right away, there was already two ECUs in the car. There was the one that it drove over with, and there was the original factory one from 1993 also on the floor. So we replaced it with the one from 1993, the original one. No difference. So we did a continuity test from the main wire harness to the ECU, from where the wire comes out to all the way to the ECU. Had a little bit of resistance, but the biggest issue is when we popped the hood, there was another mechanic in there. Another shop had worked on the car prior to us, but what we did see is that they cut off the connector and they hardwired them together. Not necessarily the best thing to do. So we put a Deutsch connector on. It's not the factory connector, but it's a connector. Also gives it the protection from weather and whatnot, debris. It didn't help any. We did a continuity test, like I said, from the ECU to the where the end of the wire is. Had a little bit of resistance there, so we ran a second wire just to see on top if it helped any. When you run those kind of wires, as a side note, always run a shielded wire. Shielded wire just protects a little bit better. Usually you have to ground it somewhere, or you can, if it's shielded already, when you clip it, you can actually connect it to the shielding from the other wire that was original. But we ran a shielded wire. Everything we did at that point delayed the light coming on a little bit, but it still came on. So we decided that we had to change the pigtail. The pigtail plugs onto the top of the knock sensor and plugs to the main wire harness, engine wire harness. These, you need to pull off the lower intake, well, the whole intake, lower intake plenum to get them off. And on the 3VZs, if you've never worked on them, the lower manifold has a water passage in the front, and that, what bolts to that, has an idler pulley on the front, and that is for the timing belt tensioner. So when you do this job, you do have to pull part of the timing belt apart. Probably almost 50% of it. So you can change the timing belt at that point if you want, or whatever. When you take that apart and you get the lower intake plenum off, we got all that done. We noticed that they did change the knock sensor. At that point, I wasn't sure. I did know that they had injured, or they had, cut off the pigtail. So we did change the pigtail, but we left the knock sensor on, not knowing what was going on. This is a hard call because it's a lot of work to get down there, and new knock sensor. Is it just the pigtail? Portion of it. Is that what happened? So, anyways, we put it all back together. Nothing great happened, and just like every other thing that we've changed, it just gave us some more time before the light turned on. So, like, dang, we had to order a new factory knock sensor, and I found out through some research. So I've always known Toyota has, very specific parameters that their ECU wants to read from their sensors. In this case, you can buy a non-factory aftermarket knock sensor for around $20. Super cheap. Factory one is about $217 or $317. I think $317. Big difference in price, but we're 99% sure that it was going to work. Obviously, that 1%, you never know what's going to happen. So we made a change. We put the knock sensor on. So we had to pull it all apart again. Got the knock sensor in. Did some more cleaning. Every time we go in there, it's like we have to clean more. Got it all back together, and it worked. It was a hard call. They look very similar, the knock sensors, but more than likely, because it's a generic knock sensor, it probably works on several cars, and the parameters are very wide. So if it's looking for a percentage, if it's looking for a voltage, their parameters are that voltage, and maybe if it's looking from 0 to 1 volt, this is -1 to +3 volts or something like that, you know. Or if it's looking for a range of 0 to 2 volts or 0 to 3 volts, it might be 0 to 5 volts, this one. So it's got too broad of a spectrum, too broad of a range, and so it just doesn't work with the Toyota ECU. So you will have to go with a factory knock sensor. I had a hard time with this. I was looking for information everywhere I could. There's not a whole lot of information on knock sensors and diagnostics for them. I have a factory manual that covers a lot of stuff, but sometimes when you're dealing with older cars, other things can trigger it, and it's things that won't be in the manual because they weren't able to put that many miles on them, and obviously definitely not that much time. But because I had a hard time finding that information, I decided to make this video, so hoping that somebody else with a code 52, this will help them understand what they need. And I can see where you're reluctant to purchase a factory knock sensor, and you might purchase another aftermarket knock sensor and have the same result. Do I believe that the factory knock sensor was bad? Yeah, I think it was, and it was just very old, and the car has almost 295,000 miles. So between age and time, you know, and miles, I think that it's, you know, there's no reason to not think that it wouldn't be the knock sensor. But it is a pretty hefty price. So just know that testing everything, sometimes that there can be a high resistance in the factory wire harness, and you have to change that or run a separate wire over that. Just make sure it's shielded and protected, you know, from whatever, because everything else is in aluminum, so it's protected. Just protect that wire too. Sometimes that will work, probably less than 1% of the time is what I averaged from guys saying that that fixed it. The pigtail was a guarantee. A couple things with the pigtail, no reason not to change it. It's comparatively speaking a very inexpensive part. For me, they had cut the end off, which was a very necessary piece to have on there. It's a shielded wire, and one of those wires actually is the ground for that. So it's used in the plug into the factory harness, and it grounds to the ECU. So it needs to be a part of that. So I would definitely change the pigtail, and definitely do not run anything but a factory knock sensor. I would even be reluctant to say to try one directly from like Nippon Denso. I don't know, and I couldn't guarantee that it's going to work, and it's a lot of work to get to that point to have it not work, you know, and fail on you. So for sure, I know the knock sensor from the factory works. So get that, and you should have a good time after that and drive around without a code 52. If you have any questions or you like this video, please subscribe. Please give us a like. And if you want to hear more, we do videos on a lot of things. We're not just factory stuff, but we do performance. We do hands-on videos, and we do tools. Different tools that we use, we show them and what they do and how they work. And if you have anything that you'd like to know, maybe we can help you out with it. Let us know. Please leave a comment below. Please like us and subscribe. And we'll talk to you the next time we have a video for you to be interested in. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.